Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for making the time. I want to take a moment to share my condolences on the passing of Virginia McCaskey. Our thoughts are with her family and the Bears organization. I want to cover a few things with you today in my opening remarks. I want to start with trade that we executed a couple of days ago. We want to thank Zach for 8 years that he gave to this organization. He grew his NBA career here in Chicago, and we know he will be missed by our fans and the Bulls organization who've been witness to that journey. A physically gifted and talented player, he has been excited to watch. He developed his leadership role and became an encouraging voice for young players. I know they respect him and felt fortunate to have played with him. We wish him the very best in his next chapter in Sacramento. I also want to thank Tori and Chris for their professionalism and contributions to the team. Would like to cover also, the pick that we received from San Antonio. In that perspective, following our trade, we now have full control of our future picks. So that's a good thing. The new guys that we acquired, I just want to touch up on each of them. We got Zach Collins from San Antonio. He's physical and tough big. We got Kevin Huerter, a versatile wing that can do a little bit of everything, and 37% career three-point shooter. Trey Jones from San Antonio, solid career in San Antonio that is one of very few pure point guards in our league. I would like to kind of talk a little bit about the season. I thought we did a great job, first 38 games, but hit the wall in January and had a couple of bad losses. Next 30 games will determine if we will be in play-in and playoffs. This is something that is achievable, and our guys are capable of getting there. I thought Billy did a great job this year getting a buy-in from our vets and young guys for how we want to play. We were pretty consistent with pace, running the floor and shooting threes. We've made big adjustments to our style of play this year, and we will continue to adjust as necessary. Billy is a great coach to work with and is always receptive to feedback and conversation. Billy and I are constantly discussing things we need to improve, like turnovers and reducing second chance points. It was evident yesterday. Billy, like all coaches, is driven to win and recognizes the importance of developing our young players. He does a great job trying to balance that. As I stated earlier this season, changes needed to be made, and we're taking the opportunity to learn, pivot, and take necessary steps to reshape our team. These moves help us to be more in control of our future. I know fans want a specific plan, and we're charting that path now. We are not done yet. We're in transitional phase, and there's more to come. We got through the trade deadline, and as we move through the rest of the season, the draft and free agency will continue shaping the future of this team. That's where the plan stands. We're committing to building a sustainable, competitive team. We're not okay with being in the middle. Curating a team that competes at the high level and can compete for championship has been our goal. Tough, the process can be, it can be a long process, and sometimes they require taking a step back before moving forward. Our commitment to the goal has not changed. This will take some time to fully unfold, but we are already made a significant shift. To our fans, I'm working tirelessly to put this team in the best position for a long-term success. I'm constantly evaluating opportunities, making tough decisions, and staying proactive in shaping the roster. Every move is carefully considered with the goal of building a competitive and sustainable future. While the process takes time, and I know it's frustrating at times to me as well, my dedication to improving the team is of utmost importance. I know where responsibility lands, and I'm committed to making the right decision to elevate this team. With that, I'll take your questions.
Hello? Is that on? Casey Johnson with Chicago Sports Network. Artūras, I know you like to keep things close to the vest, but according to the people I talked to around the league, you were very active in the days leading up to the trade deadline. Were you disappointed you were not able to get another deal done past Zach LaVine, and why were you not able to get another deal done?
Well, we always active. You know me, I'm not going to go into details. I'm not disappointed. I like the guys that we have here. And again, we're going to, see next 30 games what this team can do, and we'll shift our focus on the draft and free agency this summer.
Joe. And then Julia.
Joe Collins, Chicago Sun-Times. I'm confused now with your statement.
Mm-hmm.
The actions are of a team that understands it's a sinking ship when you trade arguably your three best players since the offseason. But if you're talking about still making a playoff push, it seems you are confused with what direction you're still going. I mean, I don't recall a team that's trying to get out of the middle that still wants to make a playoff push.
No, what I said that in our private also conversations with some of the media, that if, next 30 games we're going to be out of the play-in and out of the playoffs, we'll get a good pick. But at the same time, if we, with this young team, can make the play-in and playoffs, it's going to be, I think, it's going to be accomplishment, because if your young guys developing and translates into wins, I think there's growth. So that's what I meant to say.
Chicago Tribune, when you talk about this being a transitional phase, does that mean that then you are hoping that this summer will be another more active one?
Correct. It's not a final product. We continue, looking for opportunities to improve our team, and the next phase is going to be during the draft and free agency.
Hi, Jamal Collier from ESPN. I just want to ask you about, we saw over the summer the trade you made for Caruso was for a player, not a bunch of draft picks. Even with Zach, you got a bunch of players back, your own draft pick. And just your philosophy again on draft picks. Why have you sort of, it seems like, not prioritized stockpiling extra draft picks for this, as we've seen other teams, and kind of how you've valued players instead of that? What is your philosophy just on that?
No, I think we've obviously valued draft compensation and young players, and then flexibility, I think, in that order. But again, we have 9 players that are between 20 and 25. I think you have to have a right mix of players in order to, to grow. You can't just roll out, young players and think that they're just going to develop on their own. I think you need a right vets, experienced guys to be around, and I see, in that Vooch and, keeping Zoe in that kind of role.
Drew.
Drew Stevens, the Bigs. Artūras, there's an argument to be made that this franchise is no more relevant today than it was when you took over.
Mm-hmm.
Why should Bulls fans believe that you're the person who's going to steer this franchise back to prominence, and what is your plan to do so?
Well, I communicated that in my opening statement, pretty much that, obviously 3.5 years ago, we put a group together, and that didn't work. Right now we're taking a step back a little bit and got younger, but we in complete control of our draft picks, and looking forward to what we can do the rest of the season, and we'll go to the draft and free agency, try to improve our team.
Cody Westerlund with The Score. Yes, no question. Did you ever get a first-round pick offer for Zach that wasn't your own pick?
You wanted me to tell you the details, what it was offered, or what it was? I mean, the actual deal that happened with San Antonio, that was the deal that we executed.
Organization, a
I'm
standalone first
I'm
round.
not gonna talk about hypotheticals,
Okay.
sir.
And then a follow-up, too. There's an argument to be made you could have kept your first-round pick by being in the bottom 8 for the next couple of years. So what went into that calculation to get it back?
I think calculation went into to get our pick back so we have freedom this season and for years to come.
Artūras, I mean, obviously, Billy talked about this earlier in the year after, I think it was back-to-back losses to Ant and, I don't know, some other star player.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine that you guys are taking a couple steps back and, it might not be at the speed that people like, but at the same time, until you land that star player, you're basically always just going to kind of be on the outside looking in.
Mm-hmm.
What's your plan to do that? If it's not going to be to tank to get the highest pick possible, how do you think that's going to happen?
It just depends where we're going to land this year, right? I don't know. I cannot predict next 30 games.
But what you want to put yourself in the best position to have a higher
Yes. And I think by getting our pick back and not to worry about where we're going to land this year, there's an opportunity during the draft, to land another young player and consistently, obviously, look for opportunities to get a star player. I think in terms of moving forward, I think there's different structures that you can, try to get to a championship. There's a 2-3, star players and then a lot of role players, or you can build it as a 9-10 very good players. And I think now we're leaning towards to have a lot of solid good players, a 9-10 that can last through the season because, there's going to be injuries and, I think more and more teams are doing that.
Following up on Jamal's question, what level of urgency do you feel now to kind of maybe start that stockpiling process of draft picks just as you move forward after getting what you got back from Zach?
Well, I think we're young, but like I said, a lot of our players have 6-5 years of experience in our league, so it's not a huge step back. The guys that we have, they're very good players, and hopefully they're going to show the growth. I think you depend on those players developing, and adding something every year. So hopefully next 30 games will show some growth.
I wanted to ask again about Zach, and I know his name had been out there in trade circles for probably a better part of a year now. But did you feel urgency to move Zach at this deadline period, and maybe where does that urgency come from? Is that coming from? Where does that urgency come from?
Well, I think it was an opportunity. Zach has been really good for us last 4 years, and this was the opportunity to, obviously to get our pick and players back, and for us to continue, in the direction that we're going.
Artūras, obviously you want to try to make the best deal possible, but why wasn't there a greater sense of urgency, or why wait on a player like Vooch or Kobe when Vooch is going into an expiring contract? And because of the 140% rule, Kobe probably is not likely to sign an extension if you were to offer one, and he would hit unrestricted free agency in the summer of 26. Why keep these guys on a roster now rather than try to maybe get some assets for them now?
I think there's no urgency if, in that perspective. I think Vooch is huge of what we do here, with this team, on offense and defense. I think teammates love him. Going back to, you have to have the right guys, and try to win games, So next 30 games, I think we're going to be able to find out more, and then we'll move to draft and free agency again.
We'll get a couple more. Mike?
Artūras, do you see this young nucleus you have, Kobe, Io, Giddey, Matas, Patrick? Do you see that as a young nucleus that's going to keep growing, or do you feel like that
No, I
changes
think
need to be made to have with
I
that group?
think we have pretty good nucleus of young players, but you never stop looking for opportunities to improve the team, and I think those guys have an opportunity now for the next 30 games to see what they can do, and we can talk at the end of the season and see what's need to be done, and during the draft and free agency, what's need to be addressed.
Matt Zahn, CBS Chicago over here. You talked about getting out of the middle. I'm curious what you consider maybe a preferred outcome this season, just making the play-in or being worse and getting a higher draft pick that will help you get out of that middle.
Well, there's possibilities, right? So we might get a high draft pick, or we might be in the play-in, we might be in the playoffs. I think I was saying that if this young nucleus can get you to play-in and the playoffs, I think it's going to be growth in terms of your young players and development.
So is that worth it?
That's worth it for me. So yeah.
Go ahead, Tony.
Tony Gill, CHGO Sports. Artūras, you mentioned the young nucleus, and a lot of that now, in terms of the way the roster is constructed, is guards. So what conversations have you had with Billy about how to make sure you see all these guys play to figure out what to do moving forward going into the offseason?
So I haven't talked to Billy in terms of, in regards to our new guys and how we're going to play. And so I'm going to have now time after trade deadline to sit down and talk to Billy. But I think just the way we played and, Billy's desire of like mixing it up, yesterday, obviously Mata started, and in Boston we started 4 guards. Other games we, start 4 guards, and so we kind of changed things around. So I'm confident that we're gonna figure it out next 30 games how to continue, developing our players at the same time teaching them how to win games.
Andy Seligman, AP. Artūras, just what was the thinking behind re-signing Alonzo, or extending Alonzo, I should say?
I mean, to have him last 3-4 years here, and what he's been through, to see his growth this season and his resiliency even during this process of coming back, he's so good for this team and for our players. They love him. And I think he's good, he's impacting the team the positive way. So we wanted to keep him.
Joe, did you have a? Yeah. Last one. And then Sam.
With Billy explained it the other day too, as far as kind of taking steps backwards to go forward, and it being a process. So you're asking for patience. How are you able to stay patient, and how do you expect the fan base to stay patient? Because if this trade deadline wasn't just a purge, like I think some people were hoping, then it seems like you're just slowly kicking the can down the road of the inevitable.
Well, I would like to kind of say that 3.5 years ago when I think we tried to put that team together, that came out pretty well, but we skipped steps and try to accelerate the process. I think right now we have an opportunity here to kind of play slower and evaluate our young guys. And look, we got young quick, for me mentioning that 9 guys from 20 to 25, but this has to be a right combination of players in order to win games. So I think just my thoughts.
Artūras,
Where
back
are you?
here. Just wanted to,
Hey, Sam.
you mentioned several times, you've referenced that last 30 games
kick at post All-Star game. And in conjunction with that, play-in, playoff, whatever the case might be, does that, are you, to clarify, are you suggesting that, you know, if that goes well and you make the playoffs, that you believe you have a foundation for the future and that's your foundation? Or I was wondering, is that sort of a fool's gold to take a 30-game look and say, okay, now we got what we want?
I mean, if look at, you know, last 3-4 years, we were not doing well in the last 30 games, right? I would like to see change, to see how they do this year, the last 30 games. Now that we are past the trade deadline. But that conversation probably, I don't have a crystal ball, what's going to happen in the next 30 games. But if we in the play-in and the playoffs and your young guys are playing and they, you know, contributing to winning, I think that's a win in terms of their development. And if you are picking high, that's, you know, that's also good. So I think it's in 30 games we are able to see what's going to happen.
One quick one. How do you feel about this trading deadline as far as what you accomplished, what you want accomplished, and how do you view it?
I mean, you know, we like what happened, you know, a couple of days ago, and we were able to execute this trade. But I think, you know, there's every trade deadline. There's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of you know, calls that you have to make. There's a lot of calls that you're going to receive, and it's pretty busy until the last second. But I'm happy where we landed, and, you know, with this group, looking forward to see them 30 games.